Hey guys, thank you so much and welcome to the Game Your Future podcast. I'm Daniel and we're here to help gamers realize their full potential. And today I'm joined by Lisza Crisalle, who is a entrepreneur, business coach, and business strategist for over 21 years. Thank you so much, Lisa, and welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to your audience.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more, I guess, as far as being an entrepreneur, business coach, business strategist. What all have, I guess, where have you been? What have you done on this online space?
Well, they kind of call us the OGs, actually. We've been around for a long time. My husband and I started our company back in 2003. So going almost 22 years. It'll be the 22 years of summer. We started in the health, wellness, nutrition space. That's really what we're known for. And as we were working with large corporations, small businesses, franchisees, different things like that, we really figured out and decided that we loved working with entrepreneurs, the smaller businesses, the franchisees. And after our large contracts ended, we went into that space. And doing so, that's where we really started doing the business strategy, the business of, and teaching them how to not just be a personal trainer, let's say, or just be a nutrition store owner. So we have that was our majority of our background at the time. The more we started teaching them about the business and how to maximize and how to be in profit, again, we always talk a lot about profit. Um, we just realized that was our sweet spot. And so as we continued on and really built out the coaching side, really coaching them and guiding them in business, um, they started referring us other people. So over, while we're known in that space, they were like, well, can you help? My friend has, this kind of a store, or they're looking to start their own business. Can you help them? And we're like, sure, we absolutely can. And so we've expanded out and we've actually moved somewhat away from that. We still have a division of our business that just handles the health and wellness space and health professionals. But we've really expanded into working with business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are looking, wanting to figure out how do I do this? And I'll bring up something that
Yeah.
actually has come up quite a bit this week, which is there's a lot of government layoffs happening right now.
Yeah,
A
at this
lot.
point there is a lot of this time of recording, right? There's
At-
a lot of
yeah, so
change
there's
in
a lot of
government, right?
people
So
who are in a really interesting space. And so the
yeah,
timing of this podcast is really, really great because for them to know that there are options and there's some directions for them. So that's what we're
right.
going to talk about today.
Exactly. Yeah. Today I wanted to talk about just clarity, right? And so I think we've heard, yeah, and I guess, from the gamer point of view, yeah, not really, and maybe people not really understanding like what is clarity in terms of business. So just kind of as a general sense, just kind of background, because talking to the gamers, I know gamers we understand clarity, but
Yeah.
we're kind of I'll call it even force fed, like spoon fed clarity. When we're playing games, it's very clear what the objective is, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's beating the level, beating the boss, beating the game, there's usually, and then, even the bigger games, they have, quests, right? Like here's specifically things that you're going to do to get some kind of reward. But once we get outside of the game, things get a little bit more blurry, right? It's what do you want to do? Because like there is, I'll call it, the term as a sandbox
Yeah.
game, which is just literally that. It's just a bunch of digital tools, something like Minecraft, if you've heard of that one,
Huh?
where you just have all these tools, and it's just kind of like, what's the point of the game? The point of the game is to have fun and just let you lose. There is some kind of goal, I guess, even in Minecraft, as far as like, this kind of sense of progression, getting new tools and new blocks and new things. But when we're out in the world, it's just kind of whatever, right? Like whatever you want to do. So tell us, I guess, in this kind of maybe business sense and entrepreneur sense, like what is clarity to you and how do we kind of get that?
Yeah, and I love what you said, the analogy between the two, right? When you're in a game, you are really clear on what the objective is. And I want to add, even with something like Minecraft, the objective really is to improve your skills, isn't it? It's more it's you're improving your skills. There's a skill building component,
Exactly.
even if you're
Yep.
just doing it for fun. It's kind of the more of a starting place for that's probably what gets them sucked down that whole gaming thing,
Yep.
right?
Minecraft,
Um,
the gateway to all gaming,
the
right?
gateway, yeah, the gateway
Yep.
drug.
Yep.
Um, No, that's really funny. So taking someone who is a gamer who is perhaps looking for, okay, how do I have this same strategy or goal and how can I apply this in the outside world? So there is structure to it, okay? It is not just again, by the way, this is a great analogy with entrepreneurs as well, because entrepreneurs are known to have what we call SOS, shiny object syndrome, right? Or
Ah,
the
I've
squirrel effect, right? Oh, what
I
about
dealt with
this?
that
What
a
about
little
that?
myself. Yeah, there's always something fun and interesting over there, right?
Over there, right? And then we get sidetracked and we get off track. We get off track of what we do. And so what we do and what we teach is we actually teach that there is a cycle. Okay, so there's business cycles, there's life cycles, I'm guessing there's gaming cycles,
Mhm.
there's a cycle that we all go through. And then if you are really clear at where you are at in the cycle, it makes it very easy. It just completely makes it easy to understand what to focus on next because you're in the
Mhm.
cycle. And so, is it the next step? Is it the next step? And if it's not the next step, if it's way over here, then you know that that is something to hold off until later. Because this is what we call step skipping, right? If you step
Right.
skip and you move over here, now you've lost some of the foundation. And we teach you how to build the foundation. And what's so cool here is clarity. We actually have our phase one, which is mindset and confidence with clarity. That's all phase one in the business cycle. And so we teach you the process of getting clear on understanding what is the end goal and then what are the components to get to the end goal. And if you map that out, when you map that out, just like as if you're going through a game, you're going to then know exactly what to say yes to and what to say no to. And this is where it gives you, boom, the clarity. Okay, here's where I'm at. And does this going to lead me to the next step or is it going to lead me away?
Oh,
What do
okay.
you apply it?
So, because you talk about these kind of cycles, right? And having worked in like a corporate environment, we have, there's like the life cycle of the product, right? Like
Yeah.
where we are and, when you get to the end of life of the product and how you have to phase that out. And then in games, I guess, we call it a gameplay loop, where it's just like,
Oh,
here's this kind of
cool.
situation where it's like you have to do these certain things. And then there's, once you in whatever it is, right? Find the item, get the item, and then sell the item for the in-game currency. Like that closes the loop. So at least that part of it is there's definitely clarity there. Um, and then what you're saying as far as like being able to skip steps, and then in gaming, I think we call it like level skip, right? So the
Ah,
same
oh,
kind
this
of
is
thing.
great.
Yeah. So and what's interesting, kind of the analogy there is that I like is that I think in what you're saying, kind of in the business world, like skipping these steps not recommended, right? It's because you're going to lose this kind of information. You're going to lose this kind of, learning experience along the way. And it's funny because I think in gaming, we see a lot of the level skips as just kind of a way to get to the thing that we want faster.
Exponential.
But I think so it's a little less, I guess, obvious where in a game where it's like, well, if you game over, oh well, like you can just restart, it doesn't really matter. Whereas I think there's a lot more consequence in the real world where you still have it's still the same, but maybe it's not felt as much as far as like level skipping in a game because you're like, okay, well, levels 3 through 6 were there to teach you this mechanic or this game mechanic that you're going to need on World 8 and you just happen to skip it.
Yeah.
So, I guess can you speak a little bit more to kind of that, I guess the
Yeah.
pitfalls as far as this kind of, what gamers will call the level skipping.
Yeah, it was a great analogy. So as I mentioned, clarity is part of phase one, right? So phase one is building your foundation. So just like I'm guessing in gaming, in phase one, when you're starting out, you're kind of getting the lay of the land, right? You're kind of learning what
Yep.
everything is, what does it look like, right? So it's about building the foundation. And the analogy I use, and I use this a lot. I don't know if you've ever seen the video, but there's an amazing video that was done after 9/11 when they were rebuilding the World Tower. And when they started doing the rebuild, so after 9/11 and they cleared out the grounds, they did a time lapse video over 10
Oh,
years. This was literally one
wow.
camera set up for 10 years. The first
I
five
haven't
years,
seen this.
I
Yeah.
think it was 5, 6, it was maybe 6 years. you didn't hardly see any changes on the ground because what they were doing is they were building down. They were clearing out and going down and going down and going down, getting it all. And then they started kind of shoring it up and doing all this stuff underground, almost 6 years, right? And so you
Wow.
just see a lot of movement, but you're not seeing anything really happening. And so then right around 6 years, all of a sudden they got the whole foundation done, solid, strong, amazing foundation. And then all of a sudden, the last 4 years, it's like boom, 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 and you just see the tower going up, boom, 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 and it looks like it's
Wow.
happening really, really fast, right? But they couldn't have done any of that if they hadn't spent the time on that foundation. And that's where the clarity phase is. That's where phase one is. And we actually have we call it the clarity compass framework. So we have a
Hmm.
framework to help you set that really strong foundation so that again, the reason we avoid skipping this is because if you don't build that strong foundation and all of a sudden you jump to the exciting fun stuff, right? You start seeing that all above ground. What's going to happen if you build this big building that doesn't have a strong foundation? It'll tip over, it'll
Yep.
break, it'll do something, right? It'll fall in. So
Exactly.
it's not always the most exciting, fun part, but it is the strong foundation. And for anyone that's looking to become an entrepreneur and start their business, here's the thing. When you have this clarity, this is the piece that's going to always keep you focused on why am I doing this on those tough days? Because I promise you there's going to be tough days and you're going to be like, why am I doing this? I quit a 40 hour day work, 40-hour a week work job to work 80 hours on my own business, right? And that's an entrepreneur joke, but it's not,
Right.
it also, as an entrepreneur, when you have your own business, you create your own economy. You create your own economy and you decide what is that freedom time for you. You get to decide that, not somebody else telling you when you can and cannot take vacation or when you can go take time off to go to your kids' recital or whatever it might be, right?
That's great. Yeah. And that's really exciting because that's I think been a challenge for a lot of people that try to do that transition, right? From the 9 to 5, right? To the to an entrepreneur kind of situation where so just like the gamer leaving the game, it's like yeah, you kind of lose that sense of structure, right? So it's the same kind of
Yes.
clarity that what we're talking about too. Where I mean, that's I'll say that from my personal experience, I work one of those big Fortune 500 companies as a manager, and leaving that job, it was it was very freeing in a way that says like ah I don't have to be micromanaged by a boss. I don't have to do work that just like frankly didn't matter, right? This kind of soul
Yeah.
crushing work of like, hey, you need to do this report, but then it didn't matter, like whether I did it or not, it didn't affect anything. So there's a lot more impact, I think, within entrepreneurship, but then there's just you have to build your own structure, right? So
Right.
having that clarity, having that structure is just so important, and I've definitely been learning that along the way myself too. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's the pros and the cons. I mean, they all have them. And being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. However, for those people who can work through that piece, because I'm like you, I came from corporate America. I
Mhm.
had a very phenomenal position, was doing high 6 figures a year, and I decided to step away from that. And when you go from that structure and that accountability and all that to all of a sudden, okay, I got my own time. It's great.
Yep.
But it'll hit you fast once the income, stops. So you got to
Right.
be responsible for creating that income too.
Yeah, that's the wake up call for sure is to say, okay, the business doesn't move unless you move, all right? Unless you
Yes,
put systems in place, unless you do all this that like it didn't go.
exactly. Exactly. Yes.
So that's been the big transition. So yeah, that's fantastic. So getting that clarity, I think has been key. And I love the idea of the so tell me a little bit more about the clarity compass framework. Like what does that entail and how can that really and maybe do you have examples where you've helped other people or clients get that sense of clarity?
Yeah, and it's basically it's going through a process. We have a variety of different, worksheets, et cetera, where we get them started to really what we do a lot of reverse engineering, right? We start with the end goal. What is the end goal? What does that look like to you? Now, that might come really soon or it may not, it may be a few years down the line, but it's about setting that end goal and then what are the components along the way that need to be set up and put into place. And so we take you through this process of reverse engineering. And again, I'm guessing that a lot of gamers understand the technical side of this, but reverse engineer from the end back to the beginning, not the other way around. Do not start from here, because then again, think of it as like a map to go from the West Coast to the East Coast. Okay. If you say, all right, I'm going to get over, I'm going to get to the East Coast somehow, and you just start driving, right? You're kind of going this way. Who knows where you're going to end up? But if you reverse engineer, you're like, I want to go to New York. Now I know, boom, I'm going to go to New York. Now let me reverse it. Where do I want to stop? Then you can reverse it to make sure it comes back to where you want, and you're hitting everything along the way. Now I've got a clear end
Right.
goal, which is New York, versus if you start here and you don't know where you're going to go, you're just going to go east.
Yep. And I think what you're talking about too, and can maybe expand just a little bit on, I think what you're talking about, like the obstacles that kind of stop us, right? Having that end goal that you can say, like, all right, at least I know where I'm going. So if there's things in the road, if there's things in the way, at least you know kind of you're going to have to navigate around them,
Yes.
but to like get to where you're going, because at least kind of the metaphors I've heard is like, the obstacle, like if you don't have the end goal, you hit an obstacle, you're like, well, I don't know where to go from here, and it just stops you and you're just locked up.
Exactly. And by the way, it's not an if, it's when, because it
Ah.
will happen. And it's not an if. I promise you, we've been through many an obstacle in 21 years.
So just simply
So
preparing for the obstacles, right? Because they will come, right?
they absolutely will come. But you're gonna have obstacles in a 9 to 5 job too, right? There's just choose your hard. I always say choose your hard. Do you want a hard that allows you the flexibility and freedom that you create your own economy and you create your time and you create that? Or do you want a hard that you're at somebody else's disposal, right? At their requests and their time and all of that. And people are built differently. So for those of you guys who are here listening, and listening to this, and you have a vision of, hey, wouldn't it be really cool to do my own thing? Absolutely, it's possible. And that they're absolutely possible, but just understand it's not easy. It is possible. And you can make it be what you want, but it's not an easy road. It's certainly not for the faint of heart. Let me put it that
Yeah,
way.
absolutely. No,
Everything's
completely
good.
understand. So that's why I hope people listening to can understand. It's so rewarding, so fantastic, not easy, right? But worth it. All right.
Yes.
So fantastic. And then so just one additional question as we start to wrap up. So as far as keeping that clarity to just continually move ahead, uh, what are your thoughts just on as far as like how to stay focused, right? How to keep the clarity. Because like I said, in gaming, it's very structured. You have the quests, and once you've completed, you get the reward at the end too, which is how gives that incentive. I guess what are your thoughts on that kind of keeping the clarity or some kind of incentive structure to make sure that you follow through on these goals?
Yeah, an incentive structure is really important. What I will say, and I don't know really the age range of your listeners, but I'm guessing it's a pretty wide range, right?
That's
From
right. Yeah, that's a young professional. Like, yeah, a lot of us were, yeah, I'd say anywhere from like 25 to like, 35. Yeah, and
okay,
sometimes even
so
40 or so.
yeah, so setting up those reward systems is really important. Meaning many times again, if you're starting out as an entrepreneur, you tend to feel like you're in this by yourself, right? You all of a sudden you're not going into an office and you don't have all these people around you. And it can be very easy to sort of get stuck into this, oh my God, it's all me and it's only my decision, and not having any support. I'm going to highly recommend that you become a part of a community like a gaming, right? It might be a gaming community, but maybe it's a, starter entrepreneur community, something where you have other like-minded people who are going through similar things and or have a coach or mentor that's running it. So having a platform or a program or a mentor to help guide you along the way. And we always tell everyone, as a business coach, I have always coach and mentor. My husband and I have always had coaches and mentors that we have hired, we invest in to help keep us on track, because we practice what we preach. Because we have a saying that says you cannot read the label from inside the jar, meaning you're in it, right? You're so in your business and what you're trying to do that you cannot see from the outside. I love coaching and mentoring other businesses. I love it and I can see things, but when it comes to my own business, I know too much and I see too much and everything's possible. So I we need to have a third party outside looking in and going, "Wait a minute, stay on track." And again, having a coach or accountability partner or a mentor is absolutely crucial. It is worth the investment, more so when you are starting out than ever, because it's going to help you set up your guidelines, your parameters, get the clarity, all of those key pieces. So then you can get on track for it. So I would say that's absolutely it. And I kind of didn't, really quick, I didn't
Yeah,
fully answer your question on the Clarity Compass framework. And I have some notes here and I realized I skipped over something. Um,
no
but
problem.
it's the framework. And like I said, a mentor or coach can help you with this. They'll take you through step by step through the process because obviously there's a lot more here than what I'm sharing with you. I'm giving you big picture ideas, but it is very, very important to zero in, just like you do in gaming, right? What is that next step? What is the next room? What is the next achievement, right? What is that next piece? And then when you do it, reward yourself. And this is where I was getting to reward yourself with something. It might be dinner out or time away from, doing something different or whatever that might be, buying a new game, whatever that is, but do a reward system so that you're acknowledging the improvements, right?
That's fantastic. And yeah, I love that because I think in gaming it's just built in so systematically that kind of incentive reward structure. So having that for ourselves outside of the game, I think is
It's a
just
great
so helpful.
analogy. I love this whole gaming analogy. It's
Yeah,
really
absolutely. And I think
fantastic.
that'll probably do it for us for today. But so tell us again, so Lisa, or just tell us where we can learn more, where we can find out more about you and what you do, because this is fantastic.
Um, yeah, I'll just tell you really quick. I do spell my name a little bit different. It's Liza, and then there's a middle initial L, Lisa L. Crisalle. I'll give it to you for show notes, all of my socials and media. But what I'll tell you guys is a really simple one. Whatworksacademy.com. Whatworksacademy.com. That is our business site. That's where we connect with everyone. There's a quiz on that page where you can take a little quiz, no cost to it. Just get in there, start to see where you're at, or it'll enlighten you with many, answer some questions, and then you'll have an opportunity from there to book a call. I'm always open, love to connect, and yeah, there's no sales pressure whatsoever. We're here to serve.
Perfect. That was What Works Academy.
Whatworksacademy.com. That's it.
Perfect.
We do
All
what
right.
works.
That's perfect. All right. Thanks so much, Lisa. And just as a last question, I know you're not really a gamer, but if you had to pick one game, one video game that you know or that you think would be interesting, what would be your favorite game?
Okay, so I have, since we spoke,
Oh, yeah?
started just to kind of look around. So I would have to do Minecraft. I would just
Yeah.
have to. That's the one I've heard the most about. I always like a good challenge, so I'm guessing that that would probably be a really good place to
That's
start.
a really good one to start. That's a
Okay.
fantastic game. So absolutely love that. So thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you for everybody listening, watching. Guys, this has been so much fun. And guys, just go out there and realize your full potential.